Where's that coming from?
I'll be up there.
Oh,
Over here.
Oh, it's there.
Have any viewers
Mr. Lawrence.
on YouTube
Oh,
Live
two.
or on Zoom?
Got two.
He's on
we
Zoom.
have one on
The
YouTube.
other one.
Who's on YouTube? Is it us?
Someone's watching on YouTube. I do not know who.
State Belinda, maybe?
No.
Even Carl's in on the action here. He's
How about that?
back row seat there.
I'll be up there.
And Chuck, you look good on camera. Yeah.
Mr. Lawrence.
On YouTube Live.
Oh, we need to pause.
Someone's on-
Oh, we're on time delay.
someone's watching.
It's like we're on the Howard Stern show. The old Howard Stern show. He isn't the same anymore.
Now we should be
So I can start.
fine.
Sure. Let's try it.
All right. 9:30 a.m. on what is today's date? The 29th of June. This is the Board of Richland County Commissioners. I'm Darrell Banks here with fellow commissioners. Tony Vero, Cliff Mears. From the media, we have Al Lawrence and Carl Hunnell is here. And we have computer backup today with us. And Archie just walked in from WMFD. And we're here with Chuck Minich and Al Berger, and we're going to discuss L2.
Yes, we are. Some opportunities to look at anyways. I'm going to let Al do most of this talking because he's going to present what he can do for us and how we can move forward with this project. But the project is looking at L2, old jail, taking out the bars, taking out some walls, and how to re-level the floor and how to get that bid out and get a fair bid on it. So I'll let Al talk about his proposal, how we move forward from this point, and how we get to a final number of cost on this, because there's some maybe not straightforward answers here. Maybe asbestos abatements and some lead paint issues through the years. So
Okay. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. As I go through this thing, if you have any questions, just stop me and ask me. I understand you guys have worked here recently with Mad Studios on trying to come up with designs for reusing this space once this has been evacuated. And my intent is to kind of incorporate them here initially and under my umbrella to help us put together a set of bidding documents that will allow you to get some competitive bids for demolishing the space. Two concerns, as Chuck just mentioned. It's possible, don't know for sure, but it's possible you do have asbestos, particularly in the chases for the plumbing lines. Also, because of the age of this area and the space and when this building was built, it is probable that you have lead paint. So when you go in and start demolishing, we've got two concerns here that we want to verify up front and see what the cost of that is going to be, how that's going to impact your total project cost here. So what I'm suggesting here is that we address both of those issues up front. In other words, we solicit a quote. I know you utilize an local entity here on other asbestos removal, and we'll talk to her and have her give us a proposal. Have her take a look at the space, see if she
Age.
yes,
yes,
see if she can identify for us whether or not we have asbestos, and then if we do, what the cost of removal of that's going to be before we get a contractor involved. If you throw this into the contractor's lap, there's too many unknowns, in my opinion, and you end up in the long run paying more than if you address it up front and pay for it.
And I presume we can parcel out. So let's say there is asbestos, or let's say there's lead paint, or both. We're able to parcel that out, correct? I mean, it'd probably be done by different contractor. And the reason why I ask is that could be a potential use for the Rescue Plan Act dollars. There's language in there about lead paint remediation.
Now, lead paint's a little bit different issue in that it doesn't have to be remediated like asbestos does. But when you get into a demolition project like this, particularly where we're going to be cutting with torches, you're going to be cooking basically that lead paint, and that gives off odors and issues that the contractor is going to have to deal with. So what we want to do with lead paint is number one, we want to get somebody in here to test to see whether or not we have it. And then if we have it, then, excuse me, they will then share with us the language and things that we need to include in the specifications for the contractor that he has to follow during the process of his demolition work. Okay, so the two issues are kind of similar, but again, different how I'm suggesting and recommending that we handle it. So then once we have those issues identified, in the meantime, I also want to get a structural engineer involved. I've got some money in the proposal here for him to meet with me on site, take a look at the existing drawings. Just need to verify that we start demolishing things that I don't have a structural issue, especially after things that we see down south. I certainly don't want to have something happen here. So need to get that addressed. And Dan Yard is a very competent structural engineer that I've used on numerous occasions, and I'll have him assist me in that. Now, if we get into some additional issues, then obviously we'll have to address those at that time. I don't anticipate that, but again, I want to get him to give me his opinion on that. So then once all of those things have been identified, then I can, at that point, try and pinpoint a cost, estimated cost of what this demolition is going to cost the county. And then that cost we'll use within the bidding documents that I'll put together. Then issue this to potential contractors, work with them through the bidding phase, address any addendums as needed, and then hopefully get to the point where we award it to somebody. And then lastly, work with, as Chuck needs me to, work with the county and the successful contractor through the demolition process, addressing any questions and issues, and because there will be. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I'm proposing in my proposal to you.
You're going to bring in a structural engineer. And we're going to check out the asbestos. We're going to check out the lead paint.
That's correct.
Then you'll come back with
an estimate of what this cost would be. Unfortunately, at this point, especially with asbestos, it'd be a shot in the dark, to be honest with you.
I mean, from our past practice of doing abatements, 90% of it is just knuckles on the piping. It's not going to be getting into insulation and stuff like that. So it's really confined to plumbing, and the plumbing is confined to a corner or a knuckle or a joint where it's coming together. So I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. I think it's easily taken out, and it's not going to be like.
We get that on the minutes, Stacy, when Chuck comes back next time and
No.
got a big asbestos problem. Carl, did you get that for the news?
I
don't think it will be
I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
don't think it's a high dollar deal.
That's what you've seen so
Oh,
far, Chuck.
And that's what in past practice, it's not right. It's not been earth shattering numbers.
Oh, he jinxed us.
The other thing that's going to impact your cost, and I forgot about it, is particularly because of the lead paint. That's one issue, but also the noise. My gut feeling is you're going to want this demolition to
At
occur at off normal working hours, and obviously that impacts your cost project too. So,
and just hand out your pieces.
You can't just take nail files like they
You
did.
can ask the judge that question, but I don't think.
Well, good news, bad news. We'll start with the bad news. We know it's probably not going to be cheap. Good news is we discussed this, Daryl. This was before Cliff's time. At the end of 2019, we had set $250,000 aside for what we called at the time. I was looking yesterday, records management. which included this because we knew we were going to utilize the L1, L2 areas to fully take advantage of this building. That was going to have to be done, right, wrong, or indifferent. So we've been saving, and we have saved. Now my gut tells me Chuck's gonna say we're probably gonna need a little more than that, but
Promise you.
I promise you.
we have
Yeah.
set aside money now to at least look at it because, again, we can't do anything else until we know, right?
So
I don't think we even need to take any action. You're going to come back with bids, right? You want us to take some?
Actually, you would have a proposed cost. on
Yeah, that,
your-
my
He has a
proposal,
proposed cost.
my,
Got to pay Al, huh?
Right. So that's the next, I
so
guess,
that's,
that's what we actually need to talk about next.
Okay.
oh, you guys don't have copies of this?
No,
No.
Oh. Didn't I send it to you?
I didn't forward it to them, sorry.
Okay, can we get copies?
sure.
Yes, please.
All right, that was my mistake.
I should have, printed that normal.
I think Chuck's thought we'd be so shocked. It might be better to do it here.
So I don't think we have the cost for the demo. I just think this is for his cost.
Is L2 the actual former county jail space?
Yes.
That's what the cells are.
Yes.
Yes.
What's L1?
It's where the sheriff's department administration was originally.
Right now, we're talking only about L2.
Exactly, yeah.
It's the only floor with the bars. Now, there's plans, Carl. I mean, hopefully someday we'll take advantage of the building, but this is step one of a lengthy process. There's also discussion. The judges have formally, in a public record, requested an additional courtroom as a result of the pandemic. If you recall, and kudos to them for staying open during the pandemic. But in order to accommodate social distancing, it was quite challenging and separation of jurors and grand jury. And, you know, with still COVID ongoing to a certain extent, they have formally requested a fourth court. So we don't know at this time whether or not Rescue Plan Act dollars would cover that. We're still looking into that. And even if they can cover that, to what extent, right? So there's a domino effect. If we find the need, and again, when judges put it in a formal record, that's indicative of a fairly strong need. How much money could we use, right? So there's a domino. We'd probably have to move some people. So if you're paying for the courtroom, does that mean you could also use the Rescue Plan Act dollars to then move the office or department that's in that space? So it's pretty complex, but they have formally requested, and I can give you the letter if you want, but they've formally requested a fourth courtroom.
Is your thought to use L2 or L1?
No, I think the thought would be to try to put the courtroom near the other courtrooms.
Yeah, we're looking at putting the other courtroom on the second floor, moving another office downstairs.
Right. So. No, I see this as fairly standard for rates. I guess my question is, do you have an idea or a ballpark of the hours it will take to oversee the lead paint review? I don't even want to say remediation because we may not have to, and the asbestos remediation, which we think will take place.
From my standpoint, I wouldn't anticipate it being any more than 3 or 4 days for both of those and getting the information. That information becomes critical moving forward in producing those construction documents.
Okay.
Makes sense?
I'm figuring anywhere from 7,500 to 10 grand. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's probably even on the high side.
We always estimate high, right, Chuck?
That's exactly right.
I'll make a motion that we utilize Richland Reinvestment Funds to enter into a contract with AJB Engineering Consultants LLC for the review of asbestos and lead paint in our L2 area.
As opposed to the entire proposal.
Well, I guess I was just being a little more specific, so I'll just make a motion to approve the contract then. Sorry.
And I'll say.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Vero,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears.
Yes.
How big an area is L2 in terms of square feet?
It's about 7,500 square.
Like your house.
I would say it's, yeah,
Archie's guest house though.
Pretty close to that.
yeah.
Real quick, one other thing. I just wanted to give you an update now that I'm here in front of you. Daryl and I were talking a little bit about this before the meeting started, and that's the 911 renovation that took place. I think overall, that was a design build project, if you remember.
Our first.
The first one the county has taken under their belt. Unfortunately, through that process, the owner of Finnegan, Jim Finnegan, passed away, and that created some issues, management issues, so to speak, on their end. But I think from the county standpoint, I think the project turned out very well. I was just informed, I think it was last week, they've finally got all the punch list items supposedly done. They've taken care of all the last issues. The only thing that I need from them before we approve a final pay request is actually two things. One is kind of the final paperwork. I want to make sure that all this stuff is documented and appropriate. The last item, as I was talking to Daryl, as a design build project, you as the public entity have the right at the end of the project to review the financial picture, how the project went. And we finally got them to understand what they needed to submit. They submitted a brief document. Once, you guys do get a chance to look it over, if you're okay with it, fine. If we need to dig deeper, we can go back to them and request additional information. So those are the two items I think that still need to be taken care of. But I think overall, from the county standpoint, I think in talking to Captain Sweat, I think he's very pleased with how everything turned out. Timing wise, I think this was a new concept for the contractor. It was a new concept for the county. I think moving forward, I think timeframes can be shortened. I think it can improve.
Well, we also had, COVID.
Yeah,
Well,
that did
So,
hold up a lot of
I mean,
technology
true.
pieces.
That's true. I forgot.
yeah. I
Forgot about
forgot about COVID.
Yeah.
how soon we're.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're pleased, and we're gonna again. I've been having conversations with Captain Sweat. We haven't been hiding it from the public. They paid for it. We're just not completely done yet. But once it's done, we're gonna have it's a sizable capital investment into one of the more important areas of the community, and we're proud of it. Thanks to you and Chuck and Captain Sweat for sure. And we'll show it off to the public. But it is a state of the art 911. It's what 911 is supposed to look like. Not what we had in a condensed hotel room with an HVAC unit over one of our emergency location towers. So it looks nice. It's really nice.
So that's turned out nice.
Yeah, it has.
And it's also allowed our sheriff's department to be more efficient
Yep.
to the public
Mhm.
and to be upfront right there with them. And overall, it was I think turned out great.
So Carl, if you go to the sheriff's department, let's say normally you'd have to go upstairs for, your CCWs or just to administration. Now you come in and it's right there to the left. And we also, I don't know if you've been out there, we also fixed the area so it no longer just looks like a loading dock. You actually can tell it's the sheriff's department, and that you'll see more by way of signage improvements here in the next year. So we're chipping away at improving the county.
Thanks for your help, Al, on both of these things. And
Sure.
you're going to send us that
Yeah, I'll resend it.
finance. Take a look at it.
We kind of went through that as the pay requests come in. So, there really isn't no surprises there that I think that we really,
Well, that's why we pay you, Al.
Stacy was good at going through it too. And if there was anything that was out of line, that we addressed it before the pay request was done. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything that there's a hidden secret here or it's way over budget or anything like that. And we had very few change orders in it. So,
Well, we'll get it done and approved so that we can get right with it.
On and get it done. Yeah,
Yeah.
good. Okay, appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you, Al.
okay, thanks.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Chuck.
Yep, thanks.
Okay. Well, we can or 10:15, Lee Tassif will be here. And by the way, 11 a.m., Joseph Robertson is going to be here, but he is ill. And so our 11 o'clock will be canceled. But in the meantime, we can get started with other.
Motion to approve the record of proceedings for June 22nd, 24th.
And I'll second that.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears,
Yes. Okay. And can we move to approve minutes from the June 24th meeting?
did them both.
They were just, we did them both? Oh,
Yes.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, didn't you do them both or not?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Couple comments, and then I think I'm gonna need to make an amended motion. So I called Tom Trichu. If you look at his first request on today's meeting, I was a little not concerned. I just had a question. It said, please transfer $4,000 from equipment to other to cover costs for the year. And my question to Tom is, well, if you have a specific need for these $4,000, why are they being transferred to other? Because other indicates we're not sure.
Right.
So
Yeah.
he had said they have, and these monies get reimbursed. So let's be clear. You're able to assist people who complete the alternative center on program, clothing assistance, for example, for job interviews, some other odds and ends. And so money's going in there to pay for those. And he said they haven't had a cost like this for a couple years. So I said, okay, thank you. And then what I did ask him is to get with the auditor's office to create a specific line item for such expenses. So we know that's what we're expending. And he said he would. But I do need to make an amended motion on the request from JJ Bittinger or James J. Bittinger for you, Carl. What they're actually asking for is to appropriate $29,909 from certified unappropriated. They're asking for monies to be certified that have already been certified. So that it's written wrong. So it would be a certification from certified
An
unappropriated.
appropriation.
Right. We're appropriating from certified unappropriated. And she was asking for a certification when those monies have already been certified.
What is certification?
You accept the money. You have to certify that the money's actually there and then you appropriate.
Will be there.
Or will be there, correct,
Certified by the auditor?
or us. I mean, the
Oh.
budget commission,
Budget Commission certifies it.
and then we appropriate it. So they have about 117 grand in certified unappropriated monies. And so what they need is around 60 grand. And you saw the first transfer and then an additional 29,000 to get those ankle bracelets and or electronic monitoring watches as they're called. So motion to approve with the amendment.
And second.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears,
Yes. Okay, let's go back and approve the requisitions.
So moved.
Second.
Skip over one. Oh, shit.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears,
Yes.
Sorry, Dale.
It's all right.
Screwed up there.
Okay. Now we have some coronavirus relief fund requests. The sheriff has $1,370.68 he spent in COVID test. A motion to approve that. I move.
Second.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears.
Yes. Okay. Let's, Until Mr. Tassif gets here at 10:15, I'm gonna stand in recess.
Hey, I did have a couple quick.
Oh, wait, Al has a question.
Go ahead, Al.
Let's see, the thing you just did for JJ, that was your appropriating grant money. Is that what that you've already accepted? Is that what that was?
Yeah, I think that's non-general fund money, Al. So yes, I believe that is grant money or monies they've had in that fund And so we are appropriating money that's already been certified.
Okay, and the contract with Al Berger, was that for not only him looking into the asbestos, but doing all the work and developing the specs and stuff?
Yeah, what we're asking him to prepare to bid out the demolition downstairs. And before we want to bid it out, we want to see what the possibility of the lead paint being there and of the asbestos. And we'd like to take care of those things before we bid it out for the rest of the demolition.
Okay, but is it for just the lead paint and asbestos, or is it for,
But he's also going to make sure that it's structurally sound to do what we want to do. But this is not for designing what's going to go down there, or he's doing
But
some preliminary work to make sure we do the demolition as economically, as safely as we can.
The short answer is, Al, he's going to be doing all the work up to actually bidding out the big project and or how we choose to go about overseeing and administering the big project. Does that make sense?
yeah, so that means the bid specs and everything up to the point where
Correct.
you go out for bids.
Yep.
Okay,
He's
That's
getting
what
us
I
to the
meant.
starting line. Right now, we're sort of warming up and running around the track.
okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Carl, you got anything?
And
Give me a
Okay, it is 10:15 and we are back in session. We have been joined by the Director of Destination Mansfield, Lee Tassif. And Lee, come up here and make a report.
What do you think of the
Update us.
new digs? Recognize the pictures?
I do. I took pictures. I sent them back to the office already. It looks sharp. Pictures
Yeah.
of our pictures.
You sent
Yeah.
most of them.
We'll have post that stuff will be posted at some point. So we'll get you some extra notoriety.
Max, and she's the only one you would put in pictures from our office in the past, or what?
What? No.
True.
It's true.
It is a true statement. She was the only one that made it in so far. Yes.
Yeah, I'll remember
I don't
that.
remember that.
You have to thank Dave Dameron for that one. He's the one that took the photos. And then our director picked that photo. So my hands are don't take that one.
I think when the Rescue Plan Act money's come aside and
Shoot.
asked for money, I was like, oh, I remember when.
Tell these guys are not photogenic. That's okay.
That's true.
You're live on YouTube also.
I
Whoa. You
understand.
have anyone in there?
That means I can explain this all, right? This is perfect. We're on the air.
Look at you.
So go right ahead.
All right, well, I got a handout for you later. But wanted to stop by, obviously to be in here. This is kind of cool. Love the photos, so thank you for putting those up. Appreciate you asking, for our input from our office to do that.
Thanks for sending them.
Oh yeah, not a problem. We actually hope to have a lot more by the end of the year added to our media bank, and eventually to make that stuff accessible for almost everybody who needs to use it, which is part of our long-term plan. But here to tell you that we've survived last year. Everything we wanted to do, we did, which means survive, not exactly intact, but everything we planned on doing kind of came to pass. So it was getting through last year, surviving it, being in a position to thrive this year, which we're doing. So instead of stair-stepping backwards every month, now it's every month we add new marketing capacity. And we also are able to put some money back into our reserve account so if there's another downturn, we're in a pretty strong position to withstand it. So we don't miss a beat. Because sitting through everything last year and not being able to do what we did was just highly frustrating. So this year is way more fun because we're getting back to what we normally did. Just give you some of the highlights. Back in the spring, we introduced our new visitor guide, which you have out in the lobby. Thank you very much. But that was part of a new partnership. We needed new talent to connect ourselves with. We build networks of talent to get what we need done. And our latest partnership was with Great Lakes Publishing, who publishes Ohio Magazine, to do a brand new visitor guide, which is the one that's out there now. But along with that partnership came some other benefits, which is why we ended up hooking up with them. For instance, on the cover of Ohio Magazine in May, Kingwood Center made it. That was part of the one and only photo shoot we could actually get done last year. They're in the pipe. They put things in the pipeline that gets to Tourism Ohio, who's the tourism marketing bureau for the state of Ohio. And one of the photos that's in our visitor guide also made it onto the tear out map cover in their tour planner for the state. 3 young ladies walking up Main Street, having a good time. So that stuff worked. We also had a lot of images used on social media. They've already done some highlight work and video work with OSR and Kingwood, which is kind of nice. So that whole partnership is starting to pay off. Can't guarantee exactly what we get next year, but the connections were made. And this year we've got 3 new photo shoots scheduled in conjunction with marketing partnerships with the state, which is so much better than last year. Some of that stuff will appear, most of it will appear in our visitor guide. Some of it will make it into these other sources, which is fantastic. It's also building the media library for when the community brand is created. And we're going to add probably upwards of 40 new photos into that media library, which is, again, much better position to be in going forward and looking ahead to next year. We also have a storytelling campaign. It's a marketing partnership with Tourism Ohio that Kingwood's involved in. That'll reside on our website when it's finished. This is the 3rd such storytelling campaign we've done with Tourism Ohio. As you can tell, Kingwood is our featured attraction this year. They got a redo from last year because they did appear on the cover of Visitor Guide last year, of which we threw 80% of them away. Nobody picked them up. We couldn't give them away. It was we just wrote it off and moved on. So they got a do-over. Also, I have a digital campaign we're partnering with Kingwood on for marketing, which will start here later this month and extend clear through the end of the year. All that stuff's exciting. We're looking at putting brochure racks on the front and back of our office, which we've not had before. It was an idea we had last year, but the money wasn't there to do it. So you'll see the ones out back facing the brickyard first, and then eventually we'll have something permanently located outside of our front door so that if we're not there, people can still pick up visitor guide information. That's part of our future forward stuff. We do have photo shoots coming. We're shooting a video right now on the bike trail. We wrote a blog 2 months ago and using it as a script on how you should view the bike trail. So the video is going to follow that. And we can divide it up into a lot of snippets, use it for social media and spread that stuff out for a long time. So it's kind of fun. The first go around, we're looking at Butler. And I can tell you, looking through a video lens, Butler looks different than you'd expect. We're figuring out which angles are best. And once we get all that taken,
Mayor Stallard have a good angle?
I don't know. He's not on it. So
He told me said that too. He's a buddy.
yeah, if he's listening,
Maybe he's one of the 2 people on YouTube Live. Mayor
Do that.
Stallard, you out there?
so we'll have some on the ground footage as well as some aerial stuff. And I can tell you when you pull back,
Aerial stuff.
yep, through drone footage, it gives you a different perspective on the community, which is kind of what we wanted. It's a beautiful setting down there. So sometimes you have to ride in, fly in, drive in, but then when you pull back up, it takes on another look. It's kind of that they're kind of our test case. And once we get the formula down, we'll then move our way up north and eventually film clear up here, which is another good thing. I got the bike trail manager together with Kingwood when they opened up their parking lot. And now that's the most highly visible access or highly notarized or highly famous access to the bike trail. Kingwood you can have access, you can ride in, you can start at Kingwood and hit the trail, or you can use it as part of your tour. Which one of the things with the trail is a highlight. Every community that has a trail has scenery. Fantastic. But what does ours do? Well, ours is a gateway to 4 communities. And what can you see along the way of 4 communities? Well, now we've got 4 communities and a major attraction, which means use it as you would a highway. You just on 2 wheels and pedaling. But that and we partnered with the initiative that regional planning started where they're doing directional signs as an experiment off of the trail to point people into the communities like, hey, there's a coffee shop here, there's an ice cream shop there. So we have partnered with them on that and worked. They shared what they were doing with us and we gave some feedback. So it's kind of neat, but that fulfills that grander mission that we always have. It's like, it's not just for recreation. It is literally, it's a pathway for money to come into community. And when they said they were starting that, we're like, fantastic. It fits exactly in with what we want to do. So by the end of the year, we'll have a great video to go with it that we can use for years to come. Again, this year's so much more fun than last year. We brought in 5 bloggers and influencers so far, and we've got more scheduled so far. They've got about 100,000 followers collectively in different markets. So it's kind of neat. Some of them been already. We got more scheduled and more to come. So that's kind of fun. So they're hitting that whole digital marketplace for us. And that's one of the things that's an outcome of why we upped our investment into our PR partner, because she brings us all those things. We've invested in a couple of websites. One's on hold. The other one should be ready this year for some of our members. Sometimes we market and we do our thing, but similar to what the Richland County Foundation did through the Osborne Niece Academy, they want to build capacity within nonprofits. So in our case, those nonprofits are attractions. So there's sometimes we will step in and help them take a step forward in their marketing. And 2 websites come to mind that will help do that. So when those happen, we'll let you know. But it's kind of fun to see those things come to fruition as well. And speaking of foundation, they were gracious enough and loved the idea of extending grant funding, COVID relief grant funding to nonprofit attractions and two economic development agencies who are also 501c3s to participate in the Google AdWords campaigns. If you're not familiar with that, if you pay for words to be searched so that your entity pops up first when people search for them, and then you pay for that, which is some, again, there's a whole methodology behind searching. You think it's random, sometimes it is, but mostly there's a strategy behind it. What these programs do is give nonprofits $10,000 of AdWords to purchase and bid on each month. So that means it's $120,000, worth $120,000 in Google AdWord advertising for each nonprofit. We wanted to partner with a couple of our members to educate them on this is how you do this. And then we partnered with them so we'd be a part of that process. Chatted with the foundation, is like, hey, we've been thinking about a program similar to that. Got back to me in 24 hours and said, hey, we will open up an application for nonprofits that want to do that. So now there will be 8. And it's everybody from the Bird Sanctuary to the Mansfield Playhouse to Kingwood, the Art Center, Little Buckeye Children's Museum, in addition to some of the partners we already had with OSR and Bible Walk. The Renaissance is already doing it. They were ahead. And it also includes DMI and RCDG. And those were put in there at our request, and they agreed so that they're also participating in this. So that was part of our pledge as we do things more community oriented in marketing, not just tourism. So RCDG will be able to leverage that campaign as well as DMI. All told, there's 10 different nonprofits, which means that's $1.2 million in Google AdWords invested and utilized over the next year. Like I said, this year is way more fun than last year. It's nice to have options like that. Nice to have partners in the foundation who said, yes, we think that's a great idea that will help move things along quite nicely. And I believe the foundation is also participating in it as well, so they'll get a benefit directly. Beyond that, we've participated in the Count on Me Richland County campaigns. The reason I bring that up is last year we focused much of our attention inward. Everything we do is outward. Last year, that didn't matter, so we focused inward, partnered up with DMI and the chamber, and promoted things internally. Well, that got us a part of a group that turned into that Count on Me Richland County for being able to put that, the messages out, in this case through a pandemic, but it's basically a test run for getting information out. If there's ever anything in the community in the future that needs community-wide attention, this group kind of is formed to do that. I don't think we'd ever would have been a part of it had it not been for COVID. So there's good and bad that's come out of COVID. In our case, it's a reset, just like, pivot and all the other words everybody used last year, but it made us rethink who we are, what we do, how we approach things, and where our responsibilities lie. So it forced us to reinvent a bit. So we're doing things we didn't do before. We've streamlined. We are rebuilding on the basis of research and social media and PR. So those were the underpinnings. They got funded first. And then we add marketing campaigns after that. But I would say coming out of this, by the end of the year, we'll be fine. We should be pretty strong and ready to go and ready to be actively engaged in helping to implement the community brand, which is where we needed to be anyway. And when everything hit the fan a year and a half ago, those were some of the long-term goals we had.
We have the 11 today. We're in session. We have a chief elected officials meeting for workforce investment with Crawford. But once that ends, I'll hop on the Zoom call. So I'll be a little late to the brand today.
Okay. I told them
Jody, she's like, oh yeah, I always forget Tuesdays and Thursdays are bad.
Yep. And I told him I'd be late because I'd be here first. So there you go. As far as community branding goes, focus groups will start next week. The immersion week where they're actually in town will be the week after, the 12th through the 16th. So all that stuff is picking up speed. So that was on hold for 15 months. Now it's back. Should end in the middle of the fall with the brand story, roadmap on how to use it, how to implement it. And it's not a one-hit wonder kind of a thing. If you're going to implement, you're going to spend all this time and money doing this, then it's got to be hit really hard and often. So the plan for implementing it spreads out more than just a year. It actually goes closer to 4 years.
Darryl will be ready for his third term by then.
He's not happy with it. He didn't say it.
I only have to put him up with him for 3.5 more years.
Well, I needed Tony to explain to me counterfactual pre-pandemic trends and counterfactual revenue terms that were in those rules.
Isn't that one of the worst documents you've ever read?
Yeah.
It's terrible. I'm putting the PowerPoint together for the ARPA guidelines. I'm putting together the PowerPoint for the steering committee. That's what I've been working on for the past couple of days. Just like a 9 or 10 page
Sure.
slide, just so people can digest where you can and can't spend the money.
And I'm not sure there was much guidance in there.
Yeah, right.
I kept looking for it and it wasn't, yeah.
According to what I'm hearing from News Today, we can. You see where we?
I saw some of that.
A joke.
Yeah, we'll get there, but it's I'll have the PowerPoint because I wasn't here when they had the community steering, but I went back and watched the whole thing. And I thought a lot of the ideas were excellent. But after reading the guidelines, I'm pretty confident most of those ideas could not be used with guidelines we have. So just that sounds good, can't do it. That sounds good, can't do it.
So we're like everybody else. We're looking forward to when's the concrete in black and white, yes or no.
That was the interim final.
Interim final.
So
Right up there with counterfactual. Oh, yeah,
I got 4 to 6 years, so there's no rushing. But I also think
sure.
because the guidelines are a little, everyone's waiting to see who goes first to see, okay, what are you gonna do? All right, well, maybe we'll do that. So yeah, we'll see.
hopefully they'll change the guidelines.
Yeah, it doesn't make you feel warm. And if I have the direct citation, not to veer off, but this is important conversation. The FAQs that came out afterwards were expressly clear. The question is, may you use these monies for economic development? And A says generally no. Now, if economic development is incidental to the use of the funds, that's okay. But you can't say, hey, this would be a good economic development purpose. We're going to use these funds. That is absolutely expressly not a permissible use under the guidelines.
And one of the,
Qualified census tract.
Even then, you just can't say, oh, qualified census tract, this is economic development. It's not, you don't have unfettered discretion to do whatever you want. QCT, you have broader uses, but you still don't get to do whatever you want at QCT.
and I know that in that document, talks about tourism and hospitality being hit. So still hoping that rules stay in place that allow for moving forward with our industry, not just helping individual entities within it, but actually move the industry forward, since the industry got hammered quite a bit.
Jody and I are meeting Friday to discuss what another round of small business grants, nonprofit / small business grants will look like for those artisan industries. Not open it as expansive as we first did. And I think she took a big sigh of relief for her staff. We had met with representatives from the Renaissance, where even if they get, some of these shuttered venue dollars, the Renaissance lost. The art, playhouse too. But the Renaissance lost a sizable chunk of revenue.
That's why things like the Google AdWords thing, where the foundation stepped in to make it available, was like, oh, thank you. They need marketing power. You can survive, but if you can't do those things that call attention to yourself, you've still harmed your recovery. So that's kind of where all that stuff fit in. It's like, oh, fantastic. You're going to need that. This year, you've had an angry pent up demand, which means people were, I'm coming back out, and they showed up fast, which we've advised everybody, have some patience. We had patience when we went into COVID because new rules were put into place. People got mad at businesses and they got frustrated. Now it's like, nope. There's a lag between supply of labor. They want to be up and running as fast as possible, but they're hampered by that. So when you go, please have patience. They're running into a wall of again, not being able to get what they want. They'll serve you. Take your time, go on off peak times, those kind of things, and spread the business around or the money around that way and get it off peak which will help until that lag meets up with demand and everything gets back to whatever normal's supposed to be. Nothing's going back the way it was. That's impossible. It's just whatever it ends up being. We just haven't got there yet.
Well, Lee, you and your staff have done a very good job in this past year and the years before that. And we're looking forward to what you can do now that we're getting closer to normal.
So are we. Like I say, we're 3 of 6 people, and we probably won't expand until next year. That was part of the long range plan. It's like, nope, we need to relearn how to do different things. We'll see what's important to us, and we've not done some things anymore, and we're still keeping some things on that are important to us. But that was part of the reset. Use it to change how we function going forward, because we knew we couldn't be the same. That was impossible. So this is just our way of getting that done. I'm going to leave you with
All right. Thank you.
our annual report from last year.
Thank you.
Still had all the pictures of us going out talking to our members, which is part of our outreach. It was also part of the Chambers Richland Strong campaign. We thought it was a great idea, so don't reinvent the wheel, just go with it. And so we just fed our stuff into their social media as well as ours. And it was a fun look back. Not that last year was fun, but the look back was. Thank you as always for your time and your support.
Happy birthday.
Always good to hear from you.
Remember the task of spouses
I will pass that along. And yeah, she knows she's the favorite.
by far.
Always good to hear from you, Lee. Yeah, thanks, guys.
See you, bud.
Nice, very nice.
So, yep, Carl, you got any questions for you, Run?
Me and I talked yesterday, city council, that's. Oh, cool. So you don't know about that. This is a new member of the Mansfield Public, will be a new member of the Mansfield Public Arts Commission.
Well, they got a good man.
Got another new title.
Al, you got any questions before Lee leaves?
No, not
Okay.
right now.
All right. Captain Blanc, why don't you come up here and talk to us? Bring the sheriff.
Look at these guys.
We up next?
You are up right now.
What's their time? Hey, Stacy. So we're lucky Robertson canceled. We have an 11 o'clock chief elected officials meeting. You're right. Then.
Is there an elected officials meeting tonight?
No. This is with Crawford.
Don't tell
I'm going to sign on to 11.
The other meeting.
And then I'll come out here for this one.
Okay. All right. Well, is Captain Blanc or Sheriff leading the discussion about a grant for fencing?
Yes, sir. I'll be leading it. Have at it. All right. So we've discussed the security fencing around the jail in the past. There's a grant that has been made available through. Apologize. Grant has been made available specifically for jails in section 229.20 of Senate Bill 310. There's a pool of $50 million that jails can apply for capital funding. I've talked with the administrator with ODRC who is administering the grant. He believes that the fence does fit that mold. It is a layer of protection and security for officers, staff, jurors, civilians for the jail. In the past, we've had some issues with individuals throwing rocks up at windows and some other issues that I won't get into big detail over for security issues. But another one I can divulge is the security of our generator, which is open. And that's very critical, I guess, definitely in times of emergencies. Yes. So, which we had to use a couple weeks ago when the power went out. So it was nice. We maintained all services through that generator. It does a great job. So this grant, I'm applying for a little over $212,000 for the fence. The fence will start at the really where that little kind of walkway is for P1. It'll go around the grass. It won't cover the sidewalk. It'll go around the grass, the back of the building, all the way down to Adams, and then up Adams. Again, it won't cover the sidewalk, and then all the way up, cover the whole parking lot. There'll be 2 main gates that you can enter and exit from. We did have, got the estimate. We've already talked to the city. They have approved the fence in conversation through them. Nothing documented, but we've talked about our plans. We've showed them our plans and they're on board with it. So I'm requesting your signatures on the grant. It is completed and I just need to submit it today.
Motion.
You're encircling the parking lot.
The parking lot and the area north of the jail, which I would say is behind the jail, also west of the jail, and up to where the public entrance is. The public entrance and the one Sally Port, the exit Sally Port portion of it will continue to be open for public admittance and for arresting officers to exit to the Sally Port. Yes, sir.
Gate?
Yeah, the gate to enter, the gate will have to be opened for the arresting officer or supplies or officers to
Have a opener of some kind?
have an opener. There'll be a camera. We can identify people coming in.
And that's covered by the grant as well.
That's what I'm requesting. Yes, as part of that grant. Yes.
Okay.
Jurors. Yep. They will continue to park there. I will work with court administrators to make sure the jurors are still able to park there. I know they have another lot too. They use as well, but
There's been no security for the cars there then.
there has been correct no security for officers' cars who work
For the cars.
24/7. We've had it. Had it before. Yeah. Yeah. So it would be an extra layer of security.
Okay, I'll second.
You wanna sign it?
Commissioner
Have to prove it yet.
Yes.
Vero,
Yes.
Commissioner Lear.
Nice work, Cap.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Yep, thank you, guys.
How high would
Yeah.
How high is the fence there?
Between 8 and 10 feet with the because there'll be razor wire at the top, just like what you kind of see out of Mancy off of I think Main Street out there.
What's it gonna be made out of?
Fencing. Well, there'll be probably a yellow, like see through. We haven't finalized that detail. We've been talking about that.
Chain link, right?
Yes, sir.
Chain link, and you said inserts for,
what's the word I'm looking for? Visibility to down to the visibility of looking through it. There'll be something like in between that. We think it hasn't been finalized.
Okay.
We got to discuss that yet.
You asked how high the fence was, Carl. I served on the grand jury one time, 100 years ago.
Okay.
And
there you go.
we had a woman on the grand jury who, the prosecutor would be there and he'd say, so-and-so was in possession of stolen goods, took them over to a fence. 3 months, every time that happened, the woman said, how high was the fence?
Al, do you have any questions?
No, not right now.
When do you anticipate?
By fall of this year.
You don't have a date when this can be
No,
done.
sir, I do not.
Hey, anything else? And since Mr. Robinson is not coming, we will stand adjourned at 10:43. And 3 commissioners will have a Zoom meeting at 11:30 with the Crawford County commissioners.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
How's everything else down there? The press is here.
Yes. We're moving right along.